All right, welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Kert Brown. As a software developer working on the BigBlueButton project for several years now, specifically focused on improving accessibility to ensure an inclusive experience for all users, and also on the foundational work to incorporate TL Draw into the core of BigBlueButton. It was actually Kert that found the project, I think it was like a month after it was open sourced, and said, hey, I think this actually would be a really good whiteboard. And we went for it, and it turned out to be a really good whiteboard. And Kurt's also been involved in building new front-end features to enhance the platform's usability and functionality, of which he'll share the work here. Kert, over to you.
So thank you very much. So today we're basically going to go through Whiteboard Vision, which is essentially a proof of concept that we had been working with and iterating on for a little bit now. Just to see if we could reimagine how collaborative we can get with the whiteboard area in BigBlueButton. There are some pain points that are still being felt that we, I guess, thought that we could improve upon based on feedback and other users. So the main challenge that we're having today with the whiteboard, since we moved to TL Draw, is that whenever we have too many people using the whiteboard at once, so enabling multi-user whiteboard, we can get into a situation where there's just too many people trying to use the canvas at the same time. And although it's nice that everybody can, it sort of creates a situation where maybe the teacher might not necessarily know who exactly is drawing what. And it can be kind of overwhelming because you end up seeing a bunch of cursors flying across the screen. And then a bunch of random shapes that just pop up as people are drawing. So it can get a little chaotic, and there's not very granular visibility on basically the students in the classroom and their interactions with the whiteboard as the lesson's going on. So it's really just a case of the whiteboard being a little bit too small for the amount of people that are trying to use it. We've already experimented and have a few things in place to sort of navigate around this. So you can essentially treat the whiteboard like a physical classroom. And instead of just opening it up to everybody, you can only allow 1 or 2 users at a time, sort of like being in a physical classroom and calling a student up to the actual physical board. But the problem with this is if you have a larger classroom, doing that with each student just isn't really feasible. So the other alternative is to use the other functionality already built into BigBlueButton, which is the breakout rooms. And this would allow you to send off your students into their own rooms with their whiteboards so they can basically work on their activities individually. But the only problem with this is it sort of takes a little bit of time to set up. And it's a little bit more involved because users then have to accept invitations to these new rooms. And then are redirected to a whole new tab. And depending on your classroom, the age group, this sort of interaction can cause some problems, especially if they're younger students, like K-12, for example. And then the third option that we tried to play around with was basically infinite whiteboard. So not allowing the canvas to be restricted only to the slide. And basically letting users pan around and draw freely on the infinite canvas. But this also comes with its own challenges because as the presenter, you can kind of get lost in where people are drawing because it's infinite. They can basically pan forever and sort of get lost in just panning. So the main issue was seeing if we can come up with a sort of all-in-one solution that can basically solve all of these pain points at once. So the big question actually basically became, is there a way in BigBlueButton that we can provide a space for students in a classroom to basically interact and have their own place to think for problems presented to them from the teacher, specifically on the whiteboard? And could you still guide them through that process while they're working on it and basically not get lost in one student's room and not have visibility into other students? Kind of like the breakout rooms right now, where if you went in to check up on a student in their room, you might lose visibility in the basically everybody else in the other rooms. until you navigate out, and it just becomes a juggling act, essentially. So that's where Whiteboard Vision came in. It was essentially supposed to be a new mode, or yeah, I guess mode's the right word, for the whiteboard itself, where once enabled, each student in the whiteboard area that has access to it would get their own layer or just physical whiteboard that only they get to work on. And while doing that, the presenter basically gets like a bird's eye view to see what each student is doing, and having the ability to jump in between those whiteboards quickly while still maintaining visibility on basically everybody else in the classroom. And then just as a extra features, we sort of added the ability for the presenter to share any individual student's work with all of the other students at any point in time. So if one student had the correct answer and was doing the lessons very easily, and somebody else was struggling, they could just share sort of the correct results and sort of go through and explain how they worked through those things. So there's a few primary examples that we went through for how this would all work. And the two easiest ones, one right here is doing math problems. So the presenter could basically put up the whiteboard slide with the math problem, and then each student would essentially be able to work independently on the whiteboard, solving the problem, just working through it. And that allows the presenter then to just watch the progress of all the students, seeing what they're doing. And if at any point in time, students either having trouble or just not interacting at all, the presenter would be able to see that and just join their room and say, hey, what's up? How's it going? Do you need help with anything? Just basically provide assistance from that point forward. Same thing with language writing skills. So we could essentially have the instructor say to write a paragraph on something just to gauge their writing abilities. And they would only be able to see what they're doing on their own whiteboard. A teacher could in real time see them as they're typing and make corrections wherever they see fit. And basically help these students one-on-one while the activity is going on without having to interrupt other students pretty much while they're working. So essentially Whiteboard Vision's purpose is to give the presenter sort of like these superpowers over the activities on the whiteboard when doing activities, so that they can basically watch everybody, collaborate with one person if they wanted, or multiple, basically just on whoever's having any struggles. And they can broadcast any whiteboard to the entire classroom. So if somebody has something that they either did right or wrong, and the instructor just wants to go through that with the class, they have the ability to do so. And all these controls basically just put the presenter in more control over their activities on the whiteboard. So that was the main purpose for Whiteboard Vision in the first place. And the reasons why we feel like it does work as intended is because it provides a way for the instructor to essentially give their students personalized support. There's the visual oversight, so having that bird's eye view to quickly just see what students are actually doing something and interacting with the whiteboard while they're supposed to be doing an activity. And then the focused collaboration, so you don't have to interrupt other people, it's just one-on-one, quick. It reduces all that chaos that was originally happening with our main whiteboard when it's in multi-user mode, just sort of smoothing over the experience and making it a little bit less hectic, if you will. So just to see what that looks like in practice, I just open up some windows here. Okay, so I have a meeting loaded, just an instructor and three other viewers, so 4 users in total. And this is what happens when we join just a regular meeting. Everybody joins in, only the instructor can draw. So we'll just click here, main. And in this main area, everybody basically sees everything. So once we give infinite or multi-user whiteboard access to all the users, you'll see that basically all the students are all in the same meeting, all seeing the same lines. So if we draw a couple lines here, see that each color from the students, they're all coming on the main whiteboard. Now from this point, this is where Whiteboard Vision comes in. So if we had an activity to do at this point, we would just click the new button right next to multi-user whiteboard. And once it's turned on, we basically see that all the annotations have basically been removed because everybody is now within their own whiteboard layer. So you can see Tom, the presenter, has his cursor moving in the panel. That's for his whiteboard. And then all the other students are basically isolated to their own panels, if you will. So U2 and U3. Now, and we'll just put P for presenter here. So from this point, while these students are working on their activity, you can basically click on any of the side panel whiteboards. So if we wanted to go see John, for instance, we could just go into John's room. He'll get a notification saying that the presenter joined his whiteboard. So he knows that the teacher is actually going to be interacting with him, is basically watching what he's doing at this point to try and correct or give assistance. So we can just click check mark for yes, that was correct. And you'll see that when the teacher interacts with them, it's only isolated to the user that he selected on. And you can see that their names basically displayed in the top corner for the user that you currently have active. So if we wanted to go to, let's say, Bob, you'll see that this one got the message that he was leaving and the presenter joined John's room. And we can just do another mark there, and that's specifically for John and only his purview, basically. Now, from this point, if the instructor wanted to, let's say, share their own answers, because this last panel at the bottom is the instructor's own personal whiteboard. So we can just click the share button once it's selected. And all of those annotations essentially get shared with all the connected users in the room, just so the teacher can then explain whatever they want the rest of the class to actually be seeing. And then we can just unshare that, and then everything goes back to the way it's basically expected. Because all of this is happening within the Whiteboard Vision mode itself, that also means that the main whiteboard is still available. So we can just turn off Whiteboard Vision, and then we just go back to the main room where everybody sees everybody. And all of that data that was saved during the Whiteboard Vision activity, it was all being stored in akka. So it's all saved and the data is retrievable. So we could just turn back on Whiteboard Vision, or Whiteboard Vision on this slide. And you'll basically just get back all of the data that was previously done for the students. This was essentially where we had gotten to previously with sort of how Whiteboard Vision was going to function and being able to toggle in between users. We also added a little filter. So let's say we were looking for Bob. We can just press B, and then you would only get Bob's sort of room, just in case you have too many students and you know who you're looking for, basically. And the last edition was basically trying to see if we could get the whiteboard to sort of focus or behave like breakout rooms. So if we went to a new slide here and then enable, so in multi-use whiteboard, all cursors are, everybody's seeing the same thing. We turn on Whiteboard Vision. And still all the cursors, if you look in the side panel, they're all in their own individual rooms. But now if we try to create groupings, so let's say we wanted to create a group of 2, and there's 4 users in this meeting at the moment. Once we do that, basically the users get grouped to their corresponding person that they were grouped with, essentially. It tries to do it evenly at the moment. But there will be work to basically fix that so you can manage who's actually grouped with who. But this is just the general concept where you can see now that the instructor has been paired up with John. So John and the presenter are basically in the same room, essentially. And Jane and Bob are also in their own separate rooms. So from this point, you can essentially work on groups while still having Whiteboard Vision. And once you're done with your group work, you just click end, and everybody goes back to their own individual like side panels, and then you can just end that as well and go back to the main. But that's pretty much how Whiteboard Vision's working at the moment. And I guess from this point, the only further steps is to get grouping properly working, and also to basically finalize and confirm the UI and whether or not anything else needs to change, because these sort of whiteboard panel view, they are a little small. So we'll just make that a little bigger just to provide more visibility. But that's pretty much Whiteboard Vision. And that's all I got. Any questions or comments?
Kurt, that was amazing.
Thanks. Let me just check. I'm just looking at the questions. The annotations were stored in akka, so they're just saved in the back end, so that you can just retrieve them when you come back. So it's being handled and saved just like all the other regular annotations are.
While people are typing, I just want to make an observation. There are commercial products that do this, but you have to imagine they would have had to build the whiteboard, the multi-user side of it, everything from the stack, right from the top to the down. In BigBlueButton, we have the stack from the bottom up. And really, you're adding a fairly thin layer on top of this to get to this place. So like the multi-user whiteboard was already there. You're just building on top of it.
That's correct. And there was a question, can images and text be pasted into the whiteboard? Text can, and images also can. I do have it set up where we are now able to handle dropping of images on the canvas. There's just a little bit more work to do there on seeing the best way to handle the saving and compression of those images. But yes, that is possible and will be possible in the future.
And actually, Stephen, if you're interested, and if you're with a commercial company, I would like to accelerate this. Reach out to us. This is how a lot of the capabilities in BigBlueButton get prioritized, but we've been wanting to do this one for a few years now. And I believe, Kurt, when you had the main whiteboard and you switched to multi-user whiteboard or the Whiteboard Vision, everybody got a clean slate. So it's really the background image. And I can't recall, but was going back to the, I think what Stephen's reaching to is, you wouldn't be able to paste something onto all Whiteboard Vision whiteboards at the same time.
No, if you wanted to do that, it would be easier just to use the presenter's local whiteboard, because they also get one. And then any images that you would want to share with everybody, you would just drop it on your own canvas and then click that share button. And then that would populate it to basically everybody else.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's still possible. It's just a little, you just have to know how to do it.
Yeah, there's the base functionality, and there's kind of all the nuances to it and the controls. Talk for a moment about another piece that we're looking to build, direct discussions, and how that might intersect with Whiteboard Vision.
So with the direct discussions, I'm guessing that was being able to see users while they're typing, like if you get that live write a paragraph situation.
Actually, I think we changed the name recently. It used to be called like Cone of Silence, but the idea was you could, in an open session like this, just talk directly to somebody for a few moments and share just your webcam with them. And the idea was if you had 20 students doing whiteboard and you started to like see where students were going and you wanted to individually connect with them, maybe in Whiteboard Vision, there's an option to say like connect. our talk?
Yes. So we did go through that. I spoke to Tyler about that actually, and how he would have liked to see that be designed. But the goal is once you've selected a user or a user in the panel, you would essentially join their room and then have a button to open audio connection with that user only, specifically so you don't interrupt anybody else in the meeting, basically. So it would literally be like a one-on-one sort of mini huddle in the main meeting.
That'd be awesome.
And yet, just like the audio, students would be able to share their video with the instructor or whoever joined their room in case they were working in groups as well.
And another question, people may ask, like, recording of this or download of it. I don't think we've envisioned it, and it would really be driven by what I think the users would want to see. Those right now would be all individual whiteboards. I presume you still have the ability to download the whiteboard or take a snapshot of this current, which is what we have here. Everybody sees this button in the upper hand corner of the presentation. There could be capabilities where the instructor says, okay, just give me everything. I'm going to move on to the next topic. Give me a PDF of my 25 last snapshot of whiteboards so that I can review to it next time and I could see where students ended up.
Yeah, that's definitely possible because all of the annotations are already saved, and we've used the meta object on the shapes to basically store the user that created it, the whiteboard that it was associated with, so that we can basically just pull them and filter them out to use them for either reporting or downloads of the slide images.
Cool.
Cool. Students can join. And no, the students don't get to see the other users in their group in terms of that side panel. The only way that a student would know that somebody is in their group is because they'll essentially see that user's cursor on their whiteboard and any shapes or changes that they make while in that group on the whiteboard. But other than that, there's no real indication yet.
This does touch on a potential direction in the future where breakout rooms actually occur inside the client. So if you, the example you gave, there was 2 people sharing a whiteboard. If they were sharing audio, if they were sharing video, if they're sharing chat, it's essentially getting to where what you do in a breakout room. But it's all in the main room, all visible to the instructor. The instructor can easily see where everyone's at. And that is actually what we're calling breakout vision, where you have N students collaborating together. Whiteboard vision is really N equals 1. They're just one student in each room or each whiteboard. So these kind of will intersect the direct discussion, or I like the one-on-one huddle idea. Maybe that might be a better name.
That is actually a pretty good name.
I think it is a good name, Brandon. Yeah, one-on-one huddle. I think that's going to actually be a better name. Whiteboard vision, one-on-one huddle, N equals 2, N equals 3 gets us to breakout vision. And then we kind of get that collaborative layer above that really starts to distinguish BigBlueButton from, what you may find trying to do in a video conferencing system, or what you've been supplementing by buying into third-party products and having students go there.
Exactly.
All right, Kurt, that is awesome. We are coming to the end of the presentation. I want to thank you on behalf of the community for sharing the updates. And let's shoot for the next time we talk about Whiteboard Vision. It's like, it's real. You've got it almost there.
It was a pleasure, and thanks for having me.